It can travel anywhere in time and space.
Right. This is gonna be fun.
Up we go into time and space!
Welcome to Time and Space, the Nerd Party's dedicated Doctor Who podcast. I'm Jessica Nunn.
And I'm her husband and co-host, Phillip Gilfus.
And this time next week,
we will be in LA for the Gallifrey 1 Doctor Who fan convention.
I imagine that anyone who is listening to this podcast will be vastly relieved that our Galley 1 conversations are almost over. We've been talking about it for almost a year now.
Yes. Well, that's because we had a guest on a year ago who was talking about it, and it keyed our interest. And so, we have to make a link to that prior show to talking about conventions and what turned us on, and maybe it'll turn you on to attending a Doctor Who convention if you haven't already. But yeah, let us know your Doctor Who experiences, and follow us on Twitter, where I'll be, I'm sure, tweeting many pictures. Hashtag GALLY1.
There you go. Yeah. Okay.
But the number one, not the word, as my City Alpha 3 co-host will always say for his Twitter handle. But yeah, so we're excited. We have cosplays ready. I'm somewhat packed, even though it's days to go, but it's just better than leaving it on the floor for the cat to play with. So,
which was what was happening with your costumes.
Exactly. So yeah, so we're excited, and hopefully we'll have things to say. We're slowly but surely, very slowly, but that's all right. Nothing wrong with that. We started our first series of the Third Doctor. We're one episode from finishing his second serial.
Okay.
And I believe, off the top of my head, and I could be wrong, there's only 4 serials in that season, but I could be wrong. But
okay.
Anyway, but we were watching Doctor Who and the Silurians, which is a long one. I think it's 7 episodes.
It's a lot of episodes.
Yeah. So we won't talk about it now, but that was sort of been our experience. So yeah, looking forward to we were disappointed. We did get we did buy a photo shoot with Pearl Mackie, but she canceled at Gallifrey 1, which is sad, but it happens.
Yes, something to do with having to, I don't know, go to work. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. And
whatever.
But it's not that I'm like some grizzled veteran, but that's, a thing that happens at conventions when it gets close to.
I'm sure. A couple of the people from class also had to drop out for the same reason. Presumably not the same show.
Class canceling is not a surprise.
Don't be dreadful. But they've brought in a new special guest.
I know. Actually, 2, really. Tony Curran was sort of a late announcement, if I'm saying his name correctly. And he's, a pretty well-known actor, or at least, he's worked. But most known in Doctor Who for being, of course, Vincent Van Gogh.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes.
But apparently he's been there before.
So that's exciting.
And because of Pearl, they're adding an interview session with him, so that's cool.
Yeah.
But I don't even have her name in front of me, but the latest edition was, I was going to say the little girl, she's now obviously a young woman, who played the original Amelia Pond.
Yes.
It really is the original Amelia Pond, because Karen was the second one to show up.
That's right.
But yes, the original Amelia Pond. I can't remember the actress's name, I apologize. But apparently she was at Gallifrey 1 years ago, when she was probably a little more wee. But surely she's got to be in her 20s by now, early 20s.
That's terrifying.
It's 2 Doctors ago.
Yeah.
It's the very first episode of 2 Doctors ago. So, But anyway, it'll be interesting.
And, of course, she is Karen's
cousin. Right? Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
So, everybody's going to be like, so tell us about Karen.
We don't actually talk that.
She's gotten too big for her britches, I imagine, now that she's in the Marvel universe.
Well, she's not a queen yet, though, unlike some companions.
That's true.
That's right.
That's true.
Cool. Well, yeah, and I briefly, if we want to talk about, I don't know if we talked about it last time, we listened to the first episode of the David Tennant, I don't know what it's called. What's it called? David Tennant?
I don't know.
It's not David Tennant has a podcast, is it?
No, but it's something along those lines.
Something along those lines. So, this first guest was, of course...
Olivia Colman.
Or, also Doctor Who alum for also the same episode.
Collie
yes.
is what they call her, which I just think is just so delightful and dreadful all at the same time. Collie. Collie and DT. That was the... just like crap. But it was so much fun. If you've not listened to it, please go listen to it. It was just a delight. I giggled through the whole thing.
I mean, obviously I don't know the people, but they're both very relaxed. They're both, I think David's a little more, trying his podcast hosting shoes on, so.
This lark of
he can
his.
sometimes, he's in the interviewer's chair, but nevertheless, it is very informal, just two actors talking who obviously have worked together. And
Yeah, Olivia Colman brought her dog.
Yep.
And there's occasional just sort of narration of what the dog's up to at the moment. Mm-hmm. But yeah, really good. And the next one's out as well. We haven't listened to it yet.
That's Whoopi Goldberg, which that was a little odd couple for us.
Yes.
Maybe they'll talk about a connection we don't know about, but that was...
Yes, and I'm dying to know if she went to London or Scotland or wherever David Tennant has his little studio. And if so, why?
Yeah, and this is a Doctor Who podcast, not a Star Trek one, but I think Whoopi is one of those actresses, to me, who successfully is not her part. Like, for instance, Guinan, of course, what she's known for in the role in Star Trek. It's obviously Whoopi Goldberg, but it's not. It's totally not her. Like, you don't see her in that role because she's so gregarious and big in real life, but... Guinan is this very, serene and wise, and I just think it's always interesting that you forget that's Whoopi Goldberg you're watching.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
But speaking of people,
Speaking of people, that was a great segue, darling.
Yes. We are going to be talking about one person this podcast episode.
Yes.
It's a person who, it's one of those things once you think about it is actually very instrumental to New Who, if you will. But I don't think he really gets that much, cheers about it.
I give him all the cheers. Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan.
But anyway, we're going to be talking about Mark Gatiss, the writer, actor, and, not necessarily in Doctor Who, but at least co-producer as well, who certainly worked with Stephen Moffat, who obviously ran Doctor Who for a few doctors. So so I didn't. You didn't happen to wiki him or look into his background any? Did you? I know you tend to do research sometimes.
Yeah. I follow him on Twitter. Does that count?
I just followed him on Twitter, so I didn't know. Yeah, I was like, when I was doing at least some light Googling, I was like, he has a Twitter page.
Yeah.
So anything interesting from him?
No,
Okay.
not really. A little bit of
Political stuff.
Yeah, is what mostly I see.
At least the official entry.
He was in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, there you go. I
go.
wouldn't know. Well, and of course, as we mentioned, we saw The Favorite with Olivia Colman the other week, and he was in that as well, playing General, right? He was the General. He was the Duchess's husband, right? That one that went to war.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, and so
yes.
But anyway, so that's one thing that popped him up in my brain when I saw that. So, officially he has 9 scripts in Doctor Who, and this, of course, is TV. I mean, if we want to go into Big Finish, we'd be here all day. But proper Doctor Who on television, he has 9 scripts that he's written, and 4 appearances. There's something of an asterisk in there in some of those appearances, but at least he's been in 4 characters in Doctor Who as well. So we thought we would talk a little bit about highlighting some of the episodes he wrote, and maybe quickly go through acting if we get there, because we don't want to keep everyone all day.
Yeah, or we'll come back to this another time. After we get back from Galley 1.
Exactly. So, his first inaugural... That's redundant. His inaugural script of Doctor Who was with the 9th Doctor, right? A good place to start in New Who. Yep. And that was The Unquiet Dead, which we watched recently as a refresher. This is with the 9th Doctor and Rose meeting Charles Dickens and a certain young lady who we may see again.
Yes. Whose name just went out of my head.
Gwyneth.
No, I had Gwyneth. I couldn't remember. Eve Miles.
Right,
Eve Miles. Yes, this is the...
In Cardiff, nonetheless.
This is the 3rd episode of the 9th Doctor, you said?
Yes.
So catching it quite early on. Yeah. Possibly the first mention of the Time War.
Yeah, I without watching the first 2 episodes again, I can't remember whether it was mentioned in Rose or not, but we'll find out.
Yeah. So, what'd you think of the episode?
Well, I was reading, I don't know if it was Wikipedia or TARDIS.wiki or whatever, and they had sort of, as we'll talk later, spoiler alert, as people may know, Stephen and Mark co-created Sherlock. So, taking this 18th century work, making it modern, reboot, whatever you call it. And the article is seeming to say that's sort of Mark's thing of looking at the classics. And so now we have Charles Dickens.
Yes, yeah.
And that's sort of so his thing of looking at the 19th century, I guess. But anyway, and so that maybe I guess that's his thing, which as we talk about, a lot of his history in a lot of his episodes.
Yeah, I was going to say,
we'll get to,
he tends to, not always,
right, not
but
always.
he tends to write a lot of the fantasy historical stuff that I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
What did you think about revisiting The Unquiet Dead?
Yeah, I always think it's interesting to go back to Christopher Eccleston, because I've had so many mixed feelings about him, and particularly in this one. And this is a little tangential, so I apologize for that. But I was thinking about when Christopher Eccleston, and it's been fairly recently. Certainly since he's been playing the Doctor, gave an interview or something where he was talking about the fact that the working class actor is losing their place in British television and sort of being replaced by, Etonians like Eddie Redmayne, like Tom Hiddleston, even people like Benedict Cumberbatch, although I think that Benedict Cumberbatch probably manages to straddle the line because I think he's a little bit private school.
But he comes from an actor background.
But comes from a working actor background, yeah. And those sorts of things. And that caused quite a bit of a stir amongst the theater folk in Britain. This idea that the privileged and the wealthy are now taking over the theater scene.
Right.
And Mark Gatiss, as well, is from a working class background. Mm-hmm. The Ninth Doctor in particular, the whole New Who idea is with these sort of working class sounding people, both Christopher Eccleston and Billy Piper.
Yeah, the Rose character.
Yes. Yeah. So those were the things that were floating around in my mind. And
one thing that always makes me curious, and I'm sure there's an easy answer, but again, as we said, this is episode 3, and I know it's probably what Russell, at the time, of course, Russell was the one who launched Doctor Who, Russell T. Davies, but, whether he has a show Bible or whatever, but, how do you make a good script from a show that doesn't exist? In other words, episode 3, we just created these characters 5 weeks ago.
Yes.
And
yeah, fair point.
And because it's not just Monster of the Week.
And presumably they've written several scripts in advance.
But I always wonder how you capture the characterization. I'm sure that maybe there's probably character outlines and all that. But for instance, this is, I guess, is a bit of Monster of the Week, but there is these lovely part at the beginning because this is Rose's first historical jumps, because the first episode, as Doctor Who does, is in the present. Second is on Alien Planet in the future. With the second one, that was the one when they went to the end of Earth, or when Earth exploded.
Yes, yeah, and we meet the face of Bo.
Yeah, and Cassandra and all that.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is the first going down, back in the past in the third episode, and so that's sort of her first time. And she's like, "No, you always get to jump out. I want to jump out of the TARDIS first." And so there actually are these little interesting character moments, and it actually does, especially for just the third episode, does sort of build up their relationship where there is a little sparkage. I mean, I'm not saying necessarily romantic, but it's not romantic. And so, I mean, even then, this third episode, I was starting to be like, oh, this is interesting.
There's certainly chemistry,
yes,
whatever that means.
And then you were mentioning about Chris, that the Ninth Doctor, Chris does bring this humor. I mean, he does a brilliant role in Ninth Doctor. If I've never said it, I'm sure I have several times. But, well, aren't you going to change? I'll change my jumper.
Yeah. And what I love is, in Mark Gattis's words, he's like, when the Doctor's telling Rose she needs to change, and he sends her into the TARDIS, and he's like, turn left at this, and right there, and just past there, and it's the third door on the, and I just loved that straight into, if you hadn't been watching Who, it didn't matter.
Right.
But if you had watched Who in the past, you understood that.
I'd be interested to know Mark's Doctor Who background.
Yes.
Because we know Russell and Stephen and Chris are nerds.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And I think it's interesting, because it's not the most depth to it, but there's something there about the whole Charles Dickens, because he was like Arthur Conan Doyle, the whole debunker.
A spiritualist debunker, and so, that sort of history gives it a richness.
And that whole, so the Doctor's opening Charlie's eyes to the world of possibilities. And I'm not. This is where you come in. I'm not a British literature person, so I had to Google the Dickens's last novel that he mentioned.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, no.
Because what was the name of it? I forget.
Edwin Drood, the Mystery of Edwin Drood?
Yeah, the Mystery of Edwin Drood, which apparently was unfinished because he died.
Yeah. There's like a whole theater thing where people get to figure out the end, like make up the ending.
Right.
There's I don't think it's a musical, although it might be. Mm-hmm. But yeah, a play, and the audience gets to decide the ending every night.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I thought that was an interesting, that's obviously a touch if British literature that was well appreciated. But as someone who didn't, I Googled or Wikied it. I was like, oh, that's cute. Do a little thing like that. So,
yeah. Yeah. My favorite part, I think, was when the Doctor was like, oh, that bit about little Nell. Tell that one. That makes me laugh every time. And that, of course, is one of the most tragic moments when poor little Nell dies. The Doctor's like, I crack up every time. Oh, dear.
Uh-huh. Well, let's go to his second entry. He only had one. Mark only had one entry for the 9th Doctor, and only has one entry for the 10th Doctor. So I'm curious to know how it works, or how he was working in these early days. Did he, is there a writer's room? I don't know how this stuff works, and either both British and Doctor Who specific, especially when you have like Russell and Stephen and even Chris who write a lot of the stories, but not all of them, obviously. Is there a writer's room, or are they just submitting ideas?
Well, particularly with the 13th Doctor, when there were such big names writing, is that something that they do on their own in their house and say, here, I made you a script? How does that all work? Maybe we'll ask people at Galley 1.
So, yeah, Mark, I know you're listening. Go to Gallifrey 1 next year so we can see you. But anyway, because I was just thinking...
Because we have a lot of questions.
That's right. Because, one script for 9th Doctor makes sense. One script for 10th Doctor, goodness. That's a lot of, that's not a lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what he did do was The Idiot's Lantern, which is actually one of the events at Gallifrey 1, which is, I had didn't know what the episode was until we rewatched this. And for those who don't remember, this is the 10th Doctor and Rose again. This time they have traveled back to 1950, London for the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II, except the televisions are occupied by aliens and taking faces. It's the one where people don't have faces. That's that episode. So
yes, yeah. Everybody's face is blurred
and the 10th Doctor has a pompadour that.
Yeah, and DuckTales. Woo. Yeah, I kept looking at the back of his head. I was like, oh, that's so brilliant.
That's brill.
Yeah, Daddy-O. And a scooter.
Yep. So this is, all the way in the past. This is more, memory of the past. So, interesting idea. Another monster of the week, though. So we used gas for the Unquiet Dead, for the transporting of these aliens. That ended up being the monsters of the week. And for the Idiot's Lantern, we were using the television wire for this one alien who's the monster of the week. So
it's all about
transmission.
How technology lets the demons in.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, this was I don't know, medium to me, but what stood out for you for the Idiot's Lantern?
Yeah.
Now, is that a phrase? Is that a British phrase? I mean, I assume that means TV.
Yeah.
It's like the... Not
one that I know.
Right.
But I didn't live in England in the 50s, so I got nothing for you. Mm-hmm. I liked the historical bits of it.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the outfits. I liked the working in of the coronation more than I liked the monster bit.
Yeah, the monster was a little flat. I guess because I didn't know much about it. Wasn't, I don't know. I feel like sometimes it'd be like, oh, you crash land. There wasn't like, how'd you get here?
Yeah.
Other than just appeared and I'm sucking faces.
Yeah, although he was definitely trying to get to America, like to see Elvis or something, wasn't he? Because they talk about
originally
that.
Were there, yeah.
And so then they walk out and they're like, this is not America.
Oh, it's this America, London, America.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that darn TARDIS.
She will take you where you need to go, not where you want to go.
I thought and again, I don't know if I should read too deep into this. There's a family they encounter, and the father is just this terrible guy. Man of the house, and he's in charge, and
toxic masculinity. I think is the phrase you're looking for.
Yeah, and so I don't know if that was supposed to necessarily represent something. Because it was a little over the top, in my opinion. It was a little over the top. Like, I get what he's going for, but it was like over the top character.
Yeah.
So I was like, this guy's really bad, because the wife ends up just chucking him out by the end of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it might have been part of the changing of the guard theme that was happening with the coronation and things like that. Because there are several moments of misogyny throughout. And that gets nipped fairly quickly. A
lovely moment where 10 and Rose are using the psychic paper to invade the family's living room, and they're basically getting the guy to do all the work, even though he's the one who's been bossing everyone around, and something about like, that's women's work, and the doctor's like, oh, really? And the Elizabeth, what gender is she again?
Yeah.
And are you saying she should be doing housework? And this patriotic, queen and country men has to be like, no, that's not what I meant. And so,
well, and they also talk about the fact that he fought in the war,
right?
And I think that's sort of, I don't know, I'm not sure 100% how it ties in, but the definition of masculinity shifting.
I mean, literally, when you have a female monarch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that, obviously not new to British history, but at least, to that point in time. Been since Victoria.
Yeah, and just, interesting to think about anyway. I don't know.
Well, because I feel like there's a point there, and maybe it's because I'm just a British and I don't get, or maybe they just weren't going all the way in on the point, but we were because even at the end, the 10th Doctor's like, new queen, new times. So there you go. Whatever cultural moment that was supposed to be.
And then sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
There you go.
So, I don't know.
Well, yes, because as we're looking at him as a writer, I'm trying to figure out what are you going for? What are you going for?
Yeah.
So now by the time the 11th Doctor and Stephen, I guess, who ends up being his production partner, Mark starts submitting a lot more scripts, or at least getting a lot more scripts approved. And so I'll just go through the list. We don't have to talk about them all. There was Victory of the Daleks, which of course is Churchill in World War II. We have Night Terrors a little bit later. That's the one where they go into the little boy who's scared and calls the doctor, and they end up going into his dollhouse with the freaky dolls. All that.
Freaky dolls.
Yeah. You have Cold War, and this is when we now move into Clara. And this is they're on the Russian sub. They've discovered the block of ice, and it's an ice warrior, and the ice warrior gets loose. And then you have the Crimson Horror, which strikes me as a interesting episode I would like to rewatch, because it's sort of a random, because almost the Doctor isn't in it for the first half, because he's all red and being kept. If you remember, it's kind of a weird one in a good way. It's where this you have this woman she's not like a cult, but anyway, she's head of this organization, and she has this blind daughter, and they're doing something that's ending up dumping these people, and it turns them all red, hence the Crimson Horror. And this is where you have Vastra and Jenny and Strax helping out as well. So I think the Doctor has gone undercover, but he's disappeared. And then what's ended up happening is he didn't die, but the blind daughter's keeping him. I forget what she calls him. Whatever. Because he can't talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very because I think the mother. Oh, and I think it's mother and father, and I forget what they call him, but like it ends up being an alien, and the blind daughter ends up squishing him because he's this little alien thing. But anyway, it's a different one, but it'd be something worth watching. But anyway,
everybody loves a little bit of Vastra, Jenny, and Strax.
So of course, I would other than Night Terrors, again, these are all history. Night Terrors was present day, but Victory of the Daleks, obviously, Churchill, Cold War.
And again, Night Terrors still has that fantasy element. Creepy dolls.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we can. An interesting note for Victory of the Daleks. So I think highlight this one at least, or at least I'm choosing to, because again, it's Churchill again, very British history, just like the coronation. Now we have the Blitz and all that. Very famous time. Now Gattis, I didn't know this. This is what you learn when you research things, people. But anyway, so Danny Boy, remember Danny Boy, Dr. Calling Danny Boy,
yeah,
voiced by Mark Gatiss.
Oh, well, there you go.
So. That was a little thing.
He's just determined to have his finger in it.
Well, we'll eventually get him to doing a triple threat, but we are not there yet. But
He's
anyway.
going to dance?
But, so Victory of the Daleks, what do you think? You remember that one, I'm sure. But yeah,
yes, the
Doctor
and again, one that I like. Yeah, where the scientist turns out to be...
Yeah, a robot.
A robot, yeah.
And it's the 11th Doctor's first Dalek episode. Because I can't remember which episode this is, but this is an early episode for 11 as well.
Yeah, no, I enjoy that one because, again, my thing has always, my difficulties with the Daleks and the Cybermen is that there's nothing to empathize with, or very rarely. Again, with the Cybermen, you get Danny Pink and Bill, obviously, but with this one, the scientists is very sympathetic. He doesn't even know he's a robot, and he doesn't want to be a robot, and he has these memories, and all of that, are things that I really like in a good bad guy. Is being able to find that empathy as well.
All right. And you have your, which tends to happen in New Who, and this isn't a complaint, you have that companion finding the answer moment, because the Doctor's like, oh, I need to feel emotion, and Amelia's like, oh no,
tell me about this girl you used to love.
He's like, I really shouldn't.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that was an interesting episode. Again, to feature the Daleks. Of course, that debuted the Crayola Daleks, which I don't have a problem with. But I always wonder with these scripts, because when you have a showrunner, so in this case, it's Steven. Is he working with Mark and like, hey, I want to reintroduce the Daleks, XYZ. Or does Mark say, like, hey, I should do it, I want to do a Dalek story, Steve? I just wonder how that collaboration works.
Which comes first,
Because like in the script, does it say each Dalek escapes one with a unique color, or is that a design element? Or, I'm always wondering how much, the dialogue is, well, and I say this like I'm an expert, but anyway, but dialogue is probably dialogue, but stage directions and design, I always wonder how much of that is in the script, and how much is just, you give that to the producer and director, and they do what they want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like I say, maybe we're gonna see some writers next week.
Well, we have. I guess we can mention we actually are going to be having a small group with Jamie Childs, director of the current, or I suppose the past,
most recent
series of Doctor Who. At Gallifrey 1. So we'll be looking forward to our coffee clutch with Jamie and seeing what his thoughts. We'll ask him how a story is made on Doctor Who, or at least under Chris.
Yeah.
So any of the other ones jump out at you for the 11th Doctor, or any other notes that you're starting to detect as similarities of a Mark Gatiss style?
Well, again, as you say, the history, the more fantasy, although not completely.
But so let's talk about the 12th Doctor.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Do your intro.
Yes, well, the 12th Doctor. It's sake of organization. So Mark has 3 entries with the 12th Doctor, at least as a writer again. The Robot of Sherwood. Surely it has to be Robots of Sherwood. But anyway, Robot of Sherwood. Which that one? Anyway, Sleep No More and Empress of Mars, which is a revisit from the Ice Warriors. So maybe he's an Ice Warrior fan.
Yeah. Well, and like I say, that even the Russian sub a little bit, and Sleep No More and Empress of Mars in particular feel a little bit more sci-fi-y.
And it's interesting. Empress of Mars, and I'd have to watch it again, but there is sort of an old-fashioned sci-fi story in there, because you have these, I don't know what the official term is. I wrote Imperial Britons, but, the Imperial Army, Expeditionary Army of Britain, the ones who were out in Africa fighting Zulus or whatever, those are the characters, which is this, sort of like, Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court kind of thing, because you have these, but they're in the future, or at least on Mars. I guess I've never actually read. But anyway.
Oh, is that that's not like John Wick or anything ridiculous?
Not
like
John,
that,
but something like that. But yeah, but I think that kind of a sci-fi story.
John Carter.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, they made it with the guy from Friday Night Lights, which is a shame because he's okay, and apparently the movie
but I heard the
was
story's
bad.
very classic. So.
Okay.
But anyway, but that's sort of seems to be a very classic sci-fi setup of the past, but the future. And So, but go ahead. I think you were saying this with Sleep No More.
Yeah, those feel a little bit more sci-fi, but not over much. You know, as you say, you've got the Imperial Britons, as you say, sort of the old school guys on Mars. Yeah, I don't remember enough about the Sandman guy other than the song all the time.
Yes. Yeah, it was a found footage kind of construction because it begins with the guy narrating. He ends up being the bad guy. Spoilers. But anyway. Yeah. So Robot of Sherwood, not our favorite episode.
No, and I'm really sad about that because I really like Robin Hood.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about why we don't like.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite Disney
film. I thought you were like giving the genre, but just that movie in particular.
Yeah, but I like a good Robin Hood story.
I feel like Robin Hood is now like Batman. It's hard to tell it a new way and good. And it's being overdone a lot.
Yes. I think that might be right. And I get that
I'm Marvel and not DC, but look, I like, Tim Burton Batman, and I'm not a huge fan of the Dark Knight trilogy, but, there's good stuff there, certainly.
I haven't seen any of them.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've seen a Robin Hood film since...
Prince of Thieves?
Yeah, Prince of Thieves.
That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago, and it was not a great Robin Hood film, except Alan Rickman's
it had its moments,
brilliant.
Yeah.
Bloody brilliant. Mm-hmm. And they were filming one at one point near where I was living while I was in England.
I did watch
I didn't actually see it.
I was going to say the series. I'm sure there's probably been a few Robin Hood series, but the one in the 2000s, I watched the first couple episodes, or maybe the first season. I can't remember. It's British. I mean, it was a BBC one. But I can't remember the people. But I think it's probably more or less I'm glad I didn't keep watching because it sounded like the storylines got a little weird after a while. Like Marion dies in season 2 or something like that or something. You know.
No, that's crazy.
Yeah. But anyway, it was.
I like it best when foxes talk.
Yeah, or sing.
Especially if they're going to sing Roger Miller songs because everybody loves a little bit of Roger Miller.
But anyway, so I think the Mark Gatiss style seems to like the history. Seems to like the 40s, 50s, maybe. Sort of the, and I will explain this term, sort of the Make England Great Again. But it's the imperial memory, which is that sort of time, the war. Yeah. Not that that's imperial, but you know what I mean. The best times of modern British history.
Quote unquote.
Yeah. The storied times of, surviving the Blitz and the Queen at the beginning and all those things.
Yeah, I can get behind
that. So I think he sort of seems to, without having to sit down and talking with him, this seems to be what he gravitates to.
Seriously, Mark, call us.
Yeah, we can collaborate. And so we have a little bit of time here. So let's talk about his in front of the camera appearances. So we already mentioned his voice as Danny Boy in Victory of the Daleks. Probably his most prominent role, though he has a secondary one that's almost as prominent, but was Richard Lazarus in The Lazarus Experiment. This is the one with the Doctor and Martha. I think it's when he first meets her family. And the sister is the assistant or secretary, whatever, to Dr. Lazarus, who's the old man, goes into the thing, comes out a young man, then he eventually turns into like the scorpion, big old monster that tries to kill them all. So,
yes.
Yeah. So it's is what it is. But that is obviously Mark Gatiss playing the bad guy in that one. This one I didn't know. Again, Danny Boy I didn't know. This other appearance I didn't know. Because I'm familiar with the character, even though he's just, a 2-second character. But I did not realize that that's Mark Gatiss under all that makeup. And that's in the 11th Doctor, The Wedding of River Song, Gantok, the guy who's playing live chess with the Viking and the patch.
Oh.
I was like, what? Okay, because that's a lot of makeup going on there.
Wow, yeah, no, now I want to see a picture again.
Yes.
No, and we've seen that one relatively recently.
Because, Mark has a very, recognizable profile, tall, thin, whatever, but that guy... I
Ginger,
guess,
a little bit.
Yeah, but he's maybe because he's sitting down most of the time. But anyway, but he's the one that did the shot where falling to the skulls and the skulls.
Yep. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. But probably also the more recognizable one was with the 12th Doctor, and where he played the captain in Twice Upon a Time. That ended up being the Lethbridge Stewart ancestor.
Yes.
So that's probably his most recent outing, obviously, on Doctor Who, because the last one of the 12th Doctor. So, and which we saw on the big screen as well. So what did you think of Mark as the captain?
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, I
Speaking of
think
misogyny.
he's delightful. Yes, yeah. But I always enjoy watching him. I do have to wonder, because surely, while he was doing all of this, particularly the 12th Doctor stuff, surely he's also running Sherlock, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's...
does he sleep? Is that why he wrote the Sandman one? Because he's like, if I don't get to sleep, nobody gets to sleep.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's why I said we will go into the triple threat here in our library moment.
Yes.
But yeah, he's obviously, because actor is one. Actor, writer, again, maybe, British TV does it more than I think they do, but that's not a common, I think, combination. I know actors will pitch stuff to projects they obviously want to do and be involved with, but it's weird or interesting or different to be writing in a series and then also appearing in that series as well occasionally.
Yeah.
But obviously he has a great relationship with probably the Doctor Who producer. So.
Absolutely, as he should. He's done some reasonable work.
Yes,
for them. So
we're giving him his hurrahs.
Yes.
So anything about him as actor, writer on Doctor Who before we go to the library?
Yay, Mark Gatiss.
Yeah, thank you, Mark Gatiss, and we are interested in whether you're done or whether Chris has your number as well. And this is me. I'm not researched this, but I am 60% sure he's working with Stephen on Dread, if I remember correctly.
Interesting.
Because Stephen was working. He mentioned that's what he's been working on.
I did not remember that, but I'm always looking for the right. There's so much vampire stuff, and as a Southerner, there's a lot of vampire stuff that I appreciate, but I'm always looking for a good Dracula reimagination.
I forget what it's going to be, but yeah.
Is it going to be Dracula?
I can't remember if it's a TV series or like a...
Oh, right. I see what you're saying. Okay.
But anyway, so we'll have to Google that.
So, yeah. Not down with Twilight, not down with Vampire Diaries. Am down with a little bit of Anne Rice and a little bit of Sookie Stackhouse. Really want to see a good Dracula.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, let us go into the TARDIS library.
Whoosh, 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 whoosh.
When you close your eyes,
I go to the library.
go to the library now.
And for the library, we're going to go a little outside Doctor Who this one, but certainly in keeping with our topic. As we mentioned, of course, Mark co-created or co-developed or whatever the word is, Sherlock with Stephen Moffat. And, I was thinking, let's do the first episode, of course. That would be the logical place to start. I was looking at the episode of Sherlock. It's like, oh, well, he wrote one. So let's do that. And he also starred in it.
Well, didn't star in it.
Appeared.
But he is more visible in this one than he is in a lot of the ones
So you have
he
the
wrote.
co-creator, writer, actor in the same episode. And that is the third episode of the first season or series of Sherlock. And that is The Great Game, which premiered 8 August 2010. Cannot find a synopsis, but I'll do it off the top of my head.
A Phillip.
Yes. Sherlock, being bored and without a case, suddenly finds that he is being outwitted by a new, mysterious person on the scene.
Supervillain.
Who has launched a series of games and mysteries for him to solve. Meanwhile, Mycroft Holmes... It has given Sherlock and Watson a larger mystery of national security proportions to solve. Will one lead to the other, and will the ultimate villain be revealed?
Dun, dun, dun.
So, what'd you think of Mark Gatiss' Triple Threat?
I was a little sad there was no dancing.
Right.
But, yeah, I loved Sherlock, and... I was a little bit sad that this was the third episode that we rewatched, because now I want to do a whole rewatch. I remember things got a little wonky there for a while. Yeah. But this is just... But I remember this episode so clearly in the pool and the end and Andrew Scott. And, I just love it. Just love it.
And it's interesting... and I'm trying to think, because this would be Stephen. Moriarty is very Missy, or Missy is very Moriarty.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And is that Stephen, or is it Andrew Scott and Michelle Gomez?
Just the turn on the villain, who plays it a little bit crazy, but still brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, just prepared to just go, just hitting it running, which I just think is delightful. That said, I think that Benedict Cumberbatch does that with Sherlock, but because of who Sherlock is, it has to be much more controlled. Right. But I mean, there are some moments in this, when he climbs up on the table and when he's playing the violin, all of those. It really is just balls to the wall acting from everybody. So that's, I
think, to me, in this, I think Sherlock is also a challenge because you're basically writing a movie. I mean, it's an hour and a half, basically. I mean, that's a thing to write. But I think it's doubly hard writing a Sherlock. I mean, because I've read all of Conan Doyle's Sherlock, and they're all different quality, but the research or the whatever. I mean, making a mystery. For this episode, he has to make like 7 mysteries.
Yes,
that's a lot of research, a lot of thinking, a lot of. I mean, that's a lot of writing work.
Yep, from the mouth of someone who's currently writing a mystery.
Yeah. Well, as we were watching it.
No, we can't get a pool in any of these spaces, sweetheart.
No, as we were watching, I was thinking, well, that's weird to write, because he plays Mycroft Holmes in this episode, of course, of the character, which appears in the very beginning. So I wonder how that discussion went. Like, Steve, I want to play a part, just a minute. But anyway, and how when you're co-creating, you can play your own role. But anyway, I was thinking, like, that's got to be weird to be writing a role for you, what you're going to say. And then I realized that's what I'm actually doing right now. I'm writing a murder mystery. I will appear as a character, controlling what I will say. And so it's an interesting experience. I haven't, you get to control, you're playing with it, and so how do you do that? Do you play to your role, your strengths, or do you give yourself something challenging to do? Or
are you going to kill your wife off? That's not appropriate, Phillip.
But as far as yourself as an actor, it's an interesting thing of how to do that and how to play that.
Speaking of which, in my Facebook memories today, 4 years ago today, I put up that I was looking for a male actor.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
The call went out.
The call went out. And I ended up with husband.
Yes.
And you ended up with cat.
So, I just think Mark, if he hasn't gotten his lauds, he is definitely very accomplished. So looking forward to more what he's done. And I've actually ordered a series of books he did. That it's not, it's his own thing. It's a 3-book thing. So I saw it on Amazon. I was like, okay, let's see what this is all about. So I ordered that.
Fun.
So we'll maybe talk about that at a later time for a different future library segment. I forget what they're called, but it's this 3-book series, and it's its own cult classic thing. And
what's it?
I'm just
you got nothing
of nothing. It's just its own makings. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to that.
Sure. Well, for next week, we will be in Galley, but we're not going to leave on a plane that soon. And so for next week, before we get into recording Nothing But Gallifrey 1 shows, it being the second month, we will do our second installment of our 13th series of using our great video YouTube series we've been watching. So we'll be talking about the Second Doctor's video entry and what comes from that and what things we learn that we don't know, because, I don't know, we're probably not that much experts on the Second Doctor.
No.
Especially because the most missing episodes is with the Second Doctor.
Yep.
So.
Speaking of which, we got to start looking for those. I've not done anything this week on.
Have you asked around maybe?
I haven't. I should put it on Facebook.
Maybe pictures.
Have you seen this show reel?
Power of Daleks. Anyone.
Bueller.
Well, until next week, enjoy reading, listening, and watching The Adventures of the Doctor throughout time and space.
This is BBC Television.